All set.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining today's fourth installment in our Wellness Framework webinar series hosted by the Office of Health and Hospital Affairs. I'm Julie Mayo. I'm the Director of Student Mental Health and Wellness at SUNY System Administration. And we're very excited to have Joyce DeWitt-Parker and Johann Fiore-Conte to talk about promoting healthy campuses and the Okanagan Charter. But before we get started, I'm going to do some brief presenter bios, and then I will pass it over to Joyce and Johann. Okay, so introducing Joyce DeWitt-Parker. She's the Assistant Vice President for Health and Wellbeing in the Division of Student Affairs and Enrollment at the University at Albany, where she oversees student health services, counseling and psychological services, health promotion, and recreation and wellness, including innovative well-being initiatives such as esports and the marching band. A licensed psychologist, she spearheaded UAlbany's adoption of the Okanagan Charter in 2021 as the first health promoting campus in New York State. She founded the Office of Health Promotion and champions the leadership development of staff through the division's Mid-Managers Institute. Dr. DeWitt-Parker has also served in leadership roles with the American College Health Association and the U.S. Health Promoting Campuses Network. Passionate about student well-being, she draws inspiration from sustainable health practices that honor balance, connection, and care for community, environment, and the natural world. She finds renewal in time outdoors and with loved ones. Dr. DeWitt-Parker actively serves her community and earned her PhD in counseling psychology from UAlbany. Our second presenter with us today is Johann Fiore-Conte. As an experienced nurse practitioner and university administrator, Johann serves as the Associate Vice President for Student Affairs and Chief Health and Wellness Officer at Binghamton University. In this role, she oversees health and counseling services, the Employee Assistance Program, the Healthy Campus Initiative, services for students with disabilities, the Office of Student Conduct and Student Affairs, assessment and solutions for engagement, leading a team dedicated to fostering a culture of campus well-being. A product of the SUNY system, Johann earned her Bachelor of Science in Nursing from the University at Albany and a Master of Science in Family Nursing with a certification as a family nurse practitioner from Binghamton University. Her professional affiliations reflect her commitment to the intersections of health, well-being, and student affairs practice. She maintains her own well-being through long walks, time with family and friends, and visits to Northern Virginia and the Adirondack Mountains. With that, Joyce and Johann, I will pass it over to you.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. I am Joyce, as Julie said, and it's really great to be here. It's great to see you all of the faces here. I know that these are busy times for everyone. So I want to first thank Julie Mayo and SUNY for bringing us all together. And I want to thank you all for spending time out of your busy day with us today. So today, as Team Johann and Joyce, we're going to talk about what it really means to be a health promoting campus and how the Okanagan Charter and the newer Limerick framework help us to build healthier, more sustainable, and more equitable campuses. So you can advance to the next slide. All right, so I'm going to go through a couple of slides here really quickly, and then we're going to dive in a little bit more. So by the end of today, we hope you'll have a solid understanding about what it means to be a health promoting campus, what that model is like, what it is, why it matters, and how it really guides systems level change. So you'll hear from me about UAlbany as well, and from Johann about Binghamton, and about how we're applying these principles and into practice. And most importantly, what we hope, what Johann and I hope, is that you'll leave with some ideas that you can take back to your own campuses, regardless of where you might be on this journey. Next slide. So with that said, and if you've not already noticed, I like to have fun with what I'm doing. Johann and I have had a great deal of fun working together on this project. So we want to know who's in the room. So we have two polling questions here for you. The first is, what is your role on your campus? And the second, are you familiar with the Okanagan Charter as a framework for health promoting campuses? So if you'll take a minute and fill out those two questions, then we'll get into the heart of this. Okay, Julie, I'm not sure if you can see if everyone has participated. We have about 72 participants on the call right now.
Okay, looks like we are up to 58 respondents.
Okay,
Give it another minute.
okay, sounds great.
Okay, Joyce, and Joanne, are you able to access the results, or would you like me to read them off?
I cannot see it. Yes, if you could read off.
Yes, absolutely. So we have 32 folks who are campus administrators, 19 who fall under the practitioner category, 21 for programmatic staff. And then for the second question, we have 50% of folks in the room that are familiar with the charter, and then 43% who are not.
Okay, great, great. That really, thank you for participating in that poll. It really helps us to have a sense about what, there we are, about what your backgrounds might be so that we know how best to frame our time together so that it's useful for everyone. So thank you for that. All right, now I'm going to shift to my other teammate, Joanne.
Okay, so hello everybody, it's a pleasure to be here. As Joyce said, we're going to be talking about what it means to be a health promoting campus, and then specifically focusing on the Okanagan Charter as a framework for this work. So what is a health promoting campus? It's an international identity for a university that, number one, takes a system-based approach to health promotion, aspiring to infuse health into all that they do. You're going to hear this theme over and over again this morning. Secondly, culture is really important. And so we want to create a culture of compassion, well-being, equity, and social justice. We're also into this work for improving the health of people who live, learn, work, play, and love on our campuses. And finally, we want to strengthen ecological, social, and economic sustainability of our communities and the wider society. Next slide, Julie. So what is the Okanagan Charter? Next slide, please. Okay, the Okanagan Charter is an international framework that guides colleges and universities in developing health promoting strategies for their campuses, recognizing their unique positions and roles in research, teaching, and service to their communities. The Charter was created in 2015 by health promotion scholars, researchers, practitioners, and administrators from 45 countries as a result of the International Conference on Health Promoting Universities and Colleges in British Columbia, Canada. The Okanagan Charter calls on post-secondary institutions to lead health promotion action locally and globally by moving beyond individual level approaches to system level environmental strategies. Adopting the Charter reflects a commitment to a holistic view of well-being, one that integrates person, place, and planet. It challenges all of us to create supportive environments, strengthen social and mental well-being, and ensure that our actions contribute to a healthier, more sustainable future for our campus and for the world. Next slide. Colleges and universities are uniquely positioned to bring the Okanagan Charter to life because they educate, employ, and influence entire communities within a single setting. As centers for learning, research, and innovation, they shape not only knowledge, but also the values and behaviors that guide how people live, work, and lead. Campuses, in a sense, serve as microcosms of society, places where academic, residential, and workplace systems intersect, offering a rare opportunity to model whole campus approaches to well-being. By integrating health, equity, and sustainability into teaching, policy, and practice, institutions of higher education can advance a culture of well-being that extends far beyond the campus itself. Next slide. So the Okanagan Charter actually has two calls to action. And as we know, as a campus community, that health and well-being don't exist in isolation. They're shaped by the environments within which we learn, work, and live. So the first call to action of the Okanagan Charter asks campuses to embed health and well-being into every part of university life. From policies and planning to teaching, research, and daily operations. It's about designing physical, social, and academic environments that make healthy choices easy and natural, supported by equity-focused leadership and sustainable practice. The Charter also calls on institutions to build connected, caring communities where students, faculty, and staff are supported in their personal development and engaged as global citizens. This means creating services and systems that ensure equitable access, enhance well-being, and cultivate a truly health-promoting campus culture. Next slide. The second call to action challenges institutions to lead health promotion efforts locally and globally. As a public university, we have a unique opportunity to model what a health promoting institution looks like, not only for our students and employees, but for the wider community. This means building cross-disciplinary partnerships, sharing what we learn, and advocating for policies that advance health and equity beyond our campus. It also urges campuses to strengthen local, community, and international collaborations to expand our collective impact. By working across sectors and networks, we can advance well-being, exchange knowledge, and contribute meaningfully to global health promotion efforts. So together, these calls to action remind us that well-being is both a shared responsibility and a shared opportunity to create a culture that supports people in thriving on our campuses and to lead by example in shaping a healthier, more connected world. Next slide. Okay, I'm not going to read these, but they encompass the engine that really drives the Okanagan Charter, which is the salutogenic approach. And I don't know about others on the call, but I had not heard the term salutogenic until I actually started working in this space. The salutogenic approach is an approach to health that focuses on factors that support and promote human health and well-being, rather than on factors that cause disease, i.e. pathogenesis. This charter fundamentally changes how we view health in higher education. Instead of just focusing on preventing illness, we are making a strategic shift to actively build well-being. It's definitely a mind shift here. This vision requires three core actions. The first is a shift to assets. We are moving beyond a deficit model of disease to focus on assets and resources that actively promote health. The action item here is to focus on our strengths. We must build the capacity and potential in our students, staff, and the wider community. Second, the charter demands a holistic view of the person within their environment. Health is not just an add-on, it must be embedded within the entire institution. Meaning that in order to embed health, we're calling on all aspects, including administration, operations, and academics to promote health. The third is empowerment. The goal is to strengthen an individual's ability to cope with life's inevitable stressors by developing their sense of coherence, or their ability to understand, manage, and find meaning in their life. Our action is to enable coherence by creating a caring community and supporting personal development and empowerment. So by shifting our focus to health assets, demanding a whole university commitment, and fostering empowerment to strengthen the sense of coherence, we are building healthier, more resilient individuals and communities. Next slide. So what are the benefits of adopting the charter? Adopting the charter offers colleges and universities a unifying framework for embedding health, well-being, and sustainability into every aspect of campus life. It strengthens campus culture by promoting inclusion, collaboration, and a shared responsibility for well-being among students, faculty, and staff. Institutions that adopt the charter often see improved student engagement, improved employee satisfaction, and overall better community health. It also enhances the university's reputation as a leader in health promotion and sustainability, fosters innovation through cross-campus partnerships, and supports evidence-informed decision-making that aligns well-being with long-term institutional and environmental goals. And with that, I'm going to toss it back to Joyce.
Thanks, Joanne. Okay, I will read this quote, but I want us to talk a little bit about this. So taking a settings approach to health promotion
Joyce, I
means...
don't think we hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you.
I can hear her.
I can hear you.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Hearing her just fine.
All right. Okay, taking a settings approach to health promotion means addressing the context within which people live, work, and play, and making these the object of inquiry and intervention, as well as the needs and capacities of people to be found in different settings. So this quote from Poland really is a key, one of the key ideas of the charter, because what this does is it pushes forward what the concept of a settings-based approach is. And oftentimes I'm finding that people are confused about what that means. So we love this quote because what this does is it flips our typical thinking about what we do on campuses. So instead of saying, what do we do to make students healthier? We're asking, how do we shape the campus environment in a way that is healthy and promotes well-being naturally? Or how do we create a campus environment where students, faculty, and staff can thrive in all dimensions of wellness? So it's kind of flipping things on their head a little bit. So the setting is the campus itself. And so that becomes, the campus becomes the intervention, not just the individuals within or on the campus. Next slide. So these next two slides will basically provide different ways to frame this. So this slide you may have seen before. Some people don't like the upstream downstream scenario, but I think it helps to illustrate this very nicely. So settings-based approaches are often upstream because when I think about the work that I've been engaged in most of my life, the 20 years of my career, the first 20 years of my career, it was really focused on downstream approaches. So crisis intervention, treatment intervention as a licensed psychologist. And then midstream is when you're thinking a little more broadly about campus supports, health education, wellness programs, et cetera. And then upstream is a little bit more broad, thinking about laws and policies and the systems and structures that are in place to support us. So Thinking upstream means that we are looking at the conditions that support or shape well-being long before someone winds up in a crisis or needing clinical intervention. So this is why we say that many settings-based approaches are more upstream because they address the root factors or the root causes that influence health. There's a very famous slide that we don't have here, and it talks about frogs in a pond. Not that we're suggesting that people are frogs, but if the frogs in the pond are not well, would we focus on the individual frogs, or would we wonder about what's happening within the pond to influence the health and well-being of the frogs? So basically, in the recent Health Promoting Universities book, which I have right here, so this is a book that was published recently and edited by Vicky Squires, Chad London, and Matt Dolph. Campuses are viewed, as Johann said earlier, as micro-societies, complex ecosystems, almost like small cities, where housing, workload, expectations, food issues, social climate, all of those things, built environment and campus design are all shaped, influenced by well-being and health outcomes. I think we can advance to the next slide. So instead of trying to solve everything one person at a time, or solely fixing our thoughts on what, whether or not students are distressed, we look at how we can design the space and the place, the setting of the campus, so that everyone has a better chance to thrive. So this is just another way to look at this. And this was developed by Ginter et al. So these are colleagues of ours from the University of Alabama, Birmingham. Rebecca Kennedy, who's well known, their campus at UAB was the first to adopt the Okanagan Charter, and Wendy Reed is also there as well. So with this model, it's a little busy, but just hang with me a little bit. So it really outlines what happens at the person level, the place, and the planet level. So this lays out 3 levels that support health. And so at the planetary level, we're talking about climate, biodiversity, sustainability, all the things that impact or affect health. At the place level, we're talking about structures and systems of campus life, right? Policies, design, culture, practices, the way we teach students, the way we do our work. And then there's the person level. So these are individual choices and behaviors. So what Ginter et al. Do, what these colleagues do, is they remind us that personal health is deeply shaped by the environment around us. So if you look at this, it actually shows there are upstream and downstream effects with both planet and place, right? Well-being is impacted by all 3. And then wellness is really focused on the person, the individual. So universities actually have an influence across all 3 of these levels, which is what makes us a really, I think, really important actors in shaping both the conditions and the opportunities for healthy living, learning, and working. So this research really reinforces what many of us feel intuitively. I have to tell you, honestly, doing much of the work I did as a licensed psychologist, which was working one student at a time, I remember reaching that point in my career where I wondered, okay, I'm seeing a lot, I'm hearing a lot. Some of this that I'm hearing is really subclinical, but it really needs attention nonetheless. And so how do we kind of shift our gears? So I started to talk to other psychologists about this, because what it really enforces is what we feel intuitively, that if we want to make meaningful change, long-term improvements in well-being, we cannot just rely on services. We will always need services, but this approach takes us a little further. So Ginter argues that campuses need to move from a reactive model, responding only to symptoms. We will always have to respond to symptoms, but not only to symptoms, to a proactive approach, which really changes the conditions around what causes those symptoms. You know, oftentimes I would hear students complaining about what was happening in the classroom, and yet they were coming to see me as a psychologist. And so it caused me to pause and think, okay, we really need to think about this a little more broadly. So this article highlights that well-being must be embedded in all aspects of what we do in higher education, the academic structures, campus planning, operations, and decision-making. And so basically what it does is it places well-being at as an institutional responsibility rather than the job of just one office on campus. Next slide. So a little bit about the network. So the movement in the United States was really begun around a particular meeting. People were talking about this because this has been an international movement for at least a decade or two, close to 2 decades, I would say. So there was a meeting at NASPA Strategies in 2020. This is January in New Orleans. And if anybody attended that meeting, this was right before the COVID shutdown. So a group of folks got together and they started to talk about how to bring this movement to the United States. So at this point, the movement has really taken hold. We have over 330 campuses involved in the network now, and 41 have adopted formally. UAlbany adopted it in 2021. I'll talk about that a little bit in a minute. Obviously, Binghamton, Oswego adopted in 2025. And there are others I know who are interested. So we meaning SUNY schools and institutions, campuses, have been among the early adopters of this movement. And I believe our collective momentum will continue to build. Next slide. I also think the growth of the movement reflects the recognition that institutions have to address well-being structurally and not just at the individual level. So now here's where things get a little exciting. So the Limerick framework was developed in June 2025 as the newest model. Actually, it's a tool, not a model, but the newest global tool supporting health promoting campuses. So it was developed with the input of about 500 international delegates from the national networks all over the world who descended on Limerick, Ireland, along with organizations such as the World Health Organization and UNESCO through a participatory process and with participatory methods. So I was fortunate enough, privileged enough to attend, along with our university president and our director for health promotion. And so what this framework does is it helps campuses answer the big question, which many people have had. Okay, if we decide to adopt the charter, then what? Then what do we do? So how do we actually do this work? So it's very powerful in that it uses a very intentional structure. Next slide, please. So it uses a very, excuse me, intentional structure: planet, place, and people. And before I say anything more about this, I just wanted to mention that the Limerick Charter has not been fully unveiled yet. So in Ireland, and since then, we have seen drafts of it. It will become formalized in early December. So we'll have more to share here in a couple of weeks, probably, about the Limerick framework. Excuse me. So this framework really starts with the idea of health of the planet, because without a healthy planet, we can't have healthy places. And it's similar to what I've often said on campus is if we don't pay attention to the needs of faculty and staff, that will impact the health of our students. So this is more broad and more general, and it goes along the same lines. So start with the planet and then take a look at the campus environment. And it was interesting because I remember when we talked about this in Limerick, there was some pushback from folks in the audience, people who are very well known in this movement who said, why wouldn't we start with people? Why are we starting with the planet? But it makes perfect sense. So then next is to take a look at the campus environment, the policies and structures and the systems that are in place that shape our daily experience. And then to look at the individual. So this is the well-being of students, staff, and faculty. And if you look at this model, it's built on a strong foundation of partnership, participation, and progress. And so this was modeled in a beautiful way through this, the development of this framework, the various iterations here in the US, and then we were part of the international movement. And even while we were there in Ireland, we had opportunities every day to react to different iterations of what this framework looked like in real time. So it was really a beautiful process. So this is a whole systems approach that really acknowledges how interconnected everything about life is, everything is for us. So let me break down these, before we move further, let me break down these components, if you can go back a little bit. So like I said, planet is about the ecological foundation of health, and we can play a huge role in this with operations, procurement, even planning. With place, the campus environment, workload expectations, for example, classroom climate, transportation, food services, housing, the built environment. This is where structural inequities can either be reinforced or dismantled. And then with people, that's where we think about belonging, mental health, social connection, inclusion, and the quality of the human experience. So this model really does encourage building strong foundations on partnership, collaboration, and progress through evidence-based action. And what makes this really even more powerful is the flexibility with both the Okanagan Charter and the Limerick Framework, that each campus can decide where to focus their energy based on what the needs might be or the local priorities, while also holding on to global standards. And as Amelia Parnell, who is the president of NASPA, which is a student affairs organization nationally, what she has often said when she presents is, when you've seen one campus, you've seen one campus. So there is not one, this is not a one size fits all. People can adapt it based on what the needs might be. And these three work together to help us move from a sole focus on programs to including cultural change as well, and providing a common language for guiding the work. Okay, next slide. Okay, I'm going to go through this pretty quickly. I'm not going to read this to you, but just some quick facts are located here about UAlbany, a quick snapshot. We are an R1 institution with a very large first-generation population. And these demographics, I believe, help to shape the way we think about equity, access, and well-being on our campus. Next slide. So our pathway to adoption, like I mentioned, we adopted in 2021, September of 2021. We were among the first cohort of 7 who adopted the Okanagan Charter and the first in the system of SUNY. And our adoption really aligned with our strategic plan and involved broad leadership engagement. So for us, it wasn't just symbolic, but it was really a commitment. And I remember what it was like to, our president was grappling with the needs of students. Again, this was right as COVID was happening, but the needs of students and the needs of employees. Employees were hurting on all of our campuses, and he noticed that here as well. And I remember the question he asked was, what do we do? What do we do to support people? And so it was a matter of being in the right place at the right time. And I said, and others on campus said, this is the direction we might want to go. So our process included aligning with the university strategic plan, engaging leadership at all levels, building some shared understanding about what it means to have a whole systems approach with faculty, staff, and students. And we conducted some surveys early on in the midst of COVID to have a better understanding about what people's needs were. We had a huge turnout in terms of participation with that as well. And then we went through some exercises of realigning our vision and reimagining the steps and the structure we thought we needed to build a campus-wide program and relationships and participation. Next slide. To implement this, we created the Wellbeing Collective, which serves as our backbone of our work. That includes an advocacy council, steering committee, and 4 work groups. One is focused on the environment, one the structure, one is communal, and the last one is individual. So these align with the levels of social ecological models, and it really bridges a sense of decentralization of campus to support the foundation of the work. Next slide. So our collective was really modeled on the work from the University of Michigan, who's been, they've been involved in this work for a long, long time. So the Advocacy Council, and you'll see here, there's a pattern. I co-chair the Advocacy Council along with our Dean of Public Health, and the membership are senior leaders. So we advocate for the work that is done through the steering committee and the work groups. And so again, the steering committee is co-facilitated by the director of the Office of Health Promotion, as well as a human resources professional. And then we have our various work groups. And we also have a student work group that's focused on individual needs as well as the focus on faculty and staff. Next. So this just tells you shows a little bit about our commitment. So we created the Office of Health Promotion, and then we grew very quickly from 3 to 5 staff. We also hosted the 2024 Network Summit here in Albany, which was great. We have some new initiatives coming out this year, the Thrive Initiative, as well as the Purple Path, which is there'll be fitness stations across campus. We have 9 dimensions of wellness, which includes digital wellness. And we just went through an iteration of surveys again, and we'll have a data walk coming up soon, which will engage the entire campus or those who are interested to come out and understand and learn from the data we gathered. Next slide. And this shows we have some sustainability efforts. We have some efforts around climate and even design. A couple of months ago, I was invited to present at a DASNY conference. And really, we were exploring how the built environment and design support wellness. Next. Now it's Joan.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
You can. Okay,
Yes.
Great. So welcome to Binghamton. Binghamton University actually was founded in 1946 as the Triple Cities College. It was a branch of Syracuse University serving World War II veterans. It was renamed Harper College in 1950 when we officially joined the state university system. So we're a relatively young campus of less than 80 years. Binghamton is an R1 institution as classified by the Carnegie classification, and our current enrollment sits at about 18,000 plus students and about 3,100 faculty and staff. The university has 6 colleges and schools, which I will come back to in a little bit. And I would be remiss if I did not mention that we are the home of a Nobel Prize winner, Dr. Stanley Whittingham, who was awarded the Nobel Prize in Chemistry in 2019 for the development of the lithium-ion battery. Next slide. Okay, so our road to becoming a health promoting campus, I'm just going to hit some highlights. And it actually started in 2012. So we're going back about 13 years when the Healthy Campus Initiative actually came from a strategic planning process here on campus initiated by our then new president, Harvey Stanger. The university at the time was seeking to create a unique identity for our campus around a theme that we were passionate about, and also an area that we thought we could get even better at. And we also knew the direction that the campus was going. And so health promotion seemed like a really viable idea. So we were off and running. So the Healthy Campus Initiative began as a cross-campus committee that acted as a hub for various health and wellness initiatives and programming efforts with a heavy focus on assessment and collaboration. Over the next decade or so, a number of things happened on campus that gave us increased momentum. At the time that we got started, we had a College of Nursing. Over time, that college evolved into the Decker College of Nursing and Health Sciences, including programs in physical therapy, occupational and speech therapy, and public health. Around that time as well, we opened our School of Pharmacy and Pharmaceutical Sciences, and between those two schools, we've created the Johnson City Health Sciences campus. In our downtown area, the College of Community and Public Affairs was born, including programs in social work, public policy, and human development. So our campus as a whole has a very strong core of academic programs that center on health, well-being, environmental studies, sustainability, public policy, etc. Binghamton University also has some designated transdisciplinary areas of excellence, we call them TAEs, that serve as intellectual hubs to advance research, education, and external partnerships that transcend traditional disciplinary boundaries. These include one focused on health sciences, as well as another on sustainable communities. Next slide. Okay. I won't go into a lot of detail, but I can tell you that sustainability here at Binghamton has great momentum. The efforts here are led by a chief sustainability officer with a sustainability office on campus. We use the ASHE STARS program as a framework for our sustainability performance here on campus. In 2023, we earned the status of gold status, and we have our sights on platinum in the not too distant future. The charter's focus on equity, social justice, and respect for diversity aligns with our commitment to Indigenous health and well-being. On our campus, this shows up through our Native American Indigenous Studies Working Group, our annual partnership in the Haudenosaunee Festival, and our Three Sisters Garden, an educational space that honors Haudenosaunee tradition and integrates Indigenous knowledge into learning. From a structural perspective, in the fall of 2023, we made an organizational change here on campus whereby we merged our health promotion and prevention area that historically focused on student well-being into our Healthy Campus Initiative and created a formal, professionally staffed department on campus that focuses on health and well-being of students, faculty, and staff. We were able to add some FTE, and this really helped us create a stronger backbone for our campus efforts and a stronger collaboration with our employee assistance program colleagues. Earlier this year, we launched a renewed strategic plan for Healthy Campus. It's our second strategic plan. We are also in the process of finalizing a related assessment plan and retooling our structure of subcommittees to better match and support our current strategic goals. As you can imagine, the committee structure that we started with in 2012 does not necessarily match what we're doing now. So we're adapting and recreating that. We also, similar to Albany, modified our dimensions of wellness model to 9 dimensions by adding digital wellness. So we had actually considered adopting the Okanagan Charter years earlier than we did, but we got sidetracked by the pandemic. About 2 years ago, our sustainability officer happened to be at a conference where the Okanagan Charter was discussed, and she came back to campus and she said, "Joanne, what do you know about the Okanagan Charter?" And I said, Pam, I know a lot and I think we should look into this. So of course I was all in, and so was she. So we spoke to senior leadership, and to be very honest with you, they loved the idea and really supported us moving forward. So we did go ahead and adopt the charter as a formal and public commitment to the continuation of the work that we had already been doing on our campus for many years. It just seemed like the natural and right step for us. So we adopted in February of 2025, and we're the 37th campus in the country to adopt. Next slide. Okay, so I'm not going to run through everything on this list, but I thought I would just give some quick descriptions of some of the things that we do here on campus. So I'm going to start out with the Healthy Campus Summit, which is an annual event centered on a health and well-being topic open to the campus community. And this year's event actually was held last week and focused on the topic of problem gambling amongst college students. And we had a speaker that had a personal experience with gambling. We had a presentation from the New York State Council on problem gambling. We had a researcher, and we finished with a panel addressing prevention strategies and supportive resources. I will tell you, it was a very impactful program on a very important topic, and I would certainly encourage campuses to take a look at that going forward. We also, in an effort and opportunity to work with parents, which as we all know are an important constituency, we sponsor a speaker during Family Weekend. And it is typically an author of a book that addresses support and parenting of college students. So this year we had Dr. Belle Liang and Tim Klein, the authors of How to Navigate Life, come to campus and present to our parents. Again, always a favorite event. Like probably many of you, we have a group of students who do peer-to-peer education through our Healthy Campus program, but we also have over 80 Healthy Campus agents who are employees from various departments across campus who help us in distributing information and promoting initiatives. Our goal is that every department would have a Healthy Campus agent. But we're not quite there, but we will get there. And this has been a really important strategy for us in strengthening our infrastructure and gaining engagement across campus. Like many other campuses in the system, we have a mental health first aid training program. We have a dedicated team of 6 colleagues who are certified to teach mental health first aid, and we provide training to faculty, staff, and students. And then finally, well-being grants. So we allocate a portion of money each year for faculty, staff, and students who are interested in programming around wellness. Of course, there is criteria and requirements surrounding the allocation process, but it is a strategy to incentivize others on campus to engage. Next slide. So in summary, we've shared a framework and we've provided some examples of what the work could look like on campus. No 2 campuses are exactly alike. Each has its own set of challenges, strengths, and opportunities, and each journey is unique. So what do we recommend? Take a broad look at what is happening on your campus. Think about the mind shift. There may be more going on in the health promoting space than you realize, and that's a really good thing. So get started if you haven't already. Lean in. Just keep moving forward. Small steps are progress, and culture change will happen. Next slide. Okay, if you want to learn more about health promoting campuses and the movement, here are 3 resources that you might enjoy taking a look at. And I think the next slide I think is questions. But Julie, just so you know, I'm having trouble hearing, so I may not hear the questions. I may need the chat.
Okay, sounds good. All right, let's see what's in the chat. Oh, we're talking about sound. Okay, so what questions do we all have for Joyce and Joanne? You can feel free to leave it in the chat or take yourself off mute, whatever is most comfortable.
Hi, everybody. My name is Christine Edwards, and I'm from SUNY Oneonta. And I have a question about how do you onboard? So like you talked about your subcommittees and how you organize the structure so that it's kind of infused. But when it comes to all the people who are kind of boots on the ground folks, how do you actually onboard, or what's the role? Like, where does that fall to kind of maintain the message or maintain the framework throughout all the people who would need to embrace it?
Okay, so at UAlbany, we had two different iterations of a well-being collective. So the first iteration involved 70, 80 people, many people. But they were very peripherally involved. And so when we kind of reimagined this, we were very intentional about involving people who naturally cared about these issues, either for students, faculty, or staff, and informing the work groups. Each of the work groups is led by a faculty member and a staff member. So we were very intentional about that. So the onboarding included sharing information with them about what it meant to be a health promoting campus, some of the lingo, the common language, helping them to understand different definitions. And so that process was not just a one-time deal. So the group of people would work together, meeting on a monthly basis in the beginning, to kind of learn together, understand, ask questions, etc. Then a part of the iteration included, with the reimagining, included going out to units, different departments, and asking people how they defined well-being, what it meant to them, because it does mean something different to different people. So we were also very intentional about making sure we had representation from all of the unions on campus. So CSE, PEF, UUP, also MC members. But that kind of helped us to think about it. And we would ask those organizations who they wanted to be involved in this process. So I'm not sure if that answers your question, but it was like a multi-layered process over the course of months of planning and thinking about very intentionally how we would roll this out.
Thank you.
Looks like we have a couple questions in the chat. Let's see, does SUNY Binghamton have a template they can share on their current model and the steps they took to get there? I don't know if Joanne might have had to drop off and hop back on. So Suzanne, I'll take note of your question and connect you with Joanne. And then the next question is, do you have strategies for implementation of culture change when faculty and staff keep hearing that we need to do more with less?
Well, I think this really dovetails with that, because I think you're right. We've all heard that we have to do more with less. And, as a clinician, I can say that CAPS was overwhelmed. Counseling and Psychological Services was overwhelmed. All of our counseling centers continue to be overwhelmed. And in some cases, students are referred to CAPS who could have been served in other ways. They didn't necessarily need clinical service. So a part of it has been instructing people, having conversations and building relationships with faculty and staff so that they understand that we're not asking you to be pseudo-psychologists. We don't want you to try to be pseudo-psychologists. All we want is for you to have a 1-minute conversation with a student. That's it. So as you build relationships with people, then it's easier to know what they need, because oftentimes I would find that if someone was emotive, they were referred to CAPS. And then I would sit with a student who would say, I'm not sure why I was referred here. Because they were having an issue in the classroom. So some strategies that we have instituted include we have a widget on Brightspace that has health and well-being information because we had faculty members say we don't have time to have these conversations, or I would put a syllabus statement on the syllabus around mental health and well-being, but I'm not sure what to say. So we've given people, there's a folder that has templates with all of these, various pieces of information that could be helpful. But the widget was a student idea because the student said, we don't, some students don't look at email, other students don't look at social media. And so we asked students, what would you like? And they said, yes, you can still use, email and social media, but we're on Brightspace every day and for every class. And so if there's information there that we can readily access in the middle of the night, that would be great. And so we listened and we do that. And it has helped students as well as faculty members in that case. So again, this isn't, I'm looking at Joe's question and it's also kind of dovetails with Allison's. It's not about adding more work. It's really about a mindset shift. I remember I was invited to a charrette and I didn't even know what a charrette was, but it was who architects and other people. And I was invited by someone from facilities. And he said, I don't know if you would enjoy this, if you would find it useful, but I think this is what you've been talking about. And I said, Jason, this is exactly what I'm talking about. And so what it means is if I notice that facilities has been involved and painted a new space, I reach out to facilities and I thank them for supporting the well-being of all of us on campus. And that seems like a minor thing because they're just doing their job, but they're doing their job in a way that connects it to well-being. And so sometimes when I say things to people like that, I notice the people who come in and empty my trash. I thank them. But that makes an impact on well-being of those individuals, and they feel better about the work they're doing because people notice them as opposed to them being the people who come in the late in the day when and they're trying to not bother people. But it makes everybody's work important and useful and a part of this grand scheme. So that's not adding more work to their plates, but it's understanding what they do. We have something we call late night breakfast during finals, for example, of each semester, where we go in and faculty and staff are helping to serve food to students. I noticed once a long time ago, there was this one person who was a food service worker who knew every student's name. Not only did he know their names, but he would say things like, oh, how'd you do on that biology exam? So he was a food service worker. He was not a professional involved in health and well-being, but he did this and I noticed the impact he had on students. And so what did I do? I found out who his supervisor was and I wrote an email and I wanted them to know what impact he had on people. So was that adding more work to him? No, but it was helping him to understand how what he did was really important and helping his supervisors to understand and bring voice to this for them. So does that help? I hope so.
Okay, it looks like we have time for one more question. We have a minute left. If anyone has any burning questions they'd like to ask. Okay, well, with that, thank you so much to Joanne and Joyce for such a wonderful presentation and sharing your expertise. We have one more final session left in the webinar series. It's called the Voices of Wellness panel, which will be taking place December 9th. So you'll receive information about that if you signed up for that session. We will also be sharing the recording and resources out with the group. So keep an eye out for that. And thank you again to everyone for attending and taking time out of your day. Take care.